All right. So today we're talking about one of the most frustrating places people can be within their health. You feel like you're doing all the right things, right? You're going to the gym, you're trying to eat well, you feel like you're putting in some real effort, and yet you're not seeing any progress. Scale's not moving, your body's not changing. And you start wondering, okay, what's going on? What's wrong? And usually this is where people go one of a few directions. They assume, oh, you know what? I have a bad metabolism. It's broken. Or maybe, you know, maybe I'm eating too much. I just need to eat less and less. Or here's a big one. I just need to do more cardio. Maybe I need to go run more often or run or get on that elliptical longer. Or maybe I just need to push harder. Maybe my intensity is not maybe not where it needs to be, right? And well, that's where usually where people start making the reactive decisions. But in reality, most plateaus are mysterious. They're just feedback. And if you know how to read that feedback, you can usually fix the setup before doing anything extreme. So that's what we're walking through today.
Yeah, I this is one thing that people come to me on my calls every single day, extremely frustrated in this exact place. And it is frustrating because you're putting in the work, you want something, like you're clearly taking the action that you need and nothing is happening. And that can be defeating, especially when you feel like you're making all these sacrifices and putting all this effort for what? Like what's the point? Of course, like it's gonna be frustrating. Like, why would you want to continue if you're doing all this work and nothing's coming from it? Like you said, the answer isn't to try harder most of the time. It's usually just the plan needs adjusting. And the question is, like, what actually needs to change? And so that's what we wanna break down today. And before we do, got a birthday boy in the house. He was trying to get out of telling everyone.
Well, we're similar in this in terms of like you know, birthday's birthday. It's great. You know, I'm happy for. I really appreciate all the birthday wishes that people give me, but in terms of me making it a big deal, like it's like a super low vibe type thing, right?
I feel you. And therefore, I feel like I need to make it a big deal, which I know you hate.
Now, I will tell you, so I am kind of excited because I just turned 49, and which, by the way, you know, I don't know, I've never really thought about this, but someone mentioned it one time, I think on a post or something. They're like, when you turn a certain age, like that's how many years you've lived. Like a lot of times I think about like this is like where I am, like in my 49th year, but I've lived 49 years. So, I'm really excited about turning 50. You know, like I don't know, it's just a cool number. It's like halfway to the century. And then I just want to be able to tell people, "Oh, how old are you? I'm 50 years old, man. What do you think about that?" You know, type of thing. So, I'm excited about that actually.
Yeah, and one when you told me that the other day too about, like, having, like, lived 49 years instead of being 49, I was like, "Whoa," actually, the more I think about it, I'm like, "Yeah, actually makes a lot of sense, and why don't we not see it that way?"
I don't know. Maybe other people do. Maybe I don't.
Yeah.
I just, but yeah, I don't know. I always think like I'm in that year, and then you're like, wait a minute, I've actually lived 49 years. So,
Mhm.
that's a big number, as my kids would tell me at school. Like I'm old, you know.
I'm sure they tell you that all the time, they have no shame.
Well, and they're also funny because they really have no, idea and understanding of age. You know, they always ask in the beginning of the year like, you'll get ranges from, like, I'll always have them guess. You'll get, like, everything from, like, 18 to, like, 74, like, they have no idea. They
18?
have no idea, yeah, like, what's going on, like, how
You're
old you
doing
are.
something right.
Well, usually when they're like, "I think you're, like, 25, Mr. Brown," I'm like, "Oh, this kid's awesome. Like, this is a great age. He knows exactly what he's talking."
But I love that you say that you're excited to turn 50 because I feel like a lot of people do. They see 50 as it's super old, or that's when everything starts to break down. He's like, oh, downhill from here. And so I feel like that's a very unique perspective. Like it's the way it should be, but it's very unique compared to what a lot of people operate in. Like, can you speak more to that? Or like, why do you have that viewpoint?
Yeah, it is old. I mean, like, when I think about that, I was like, 49 years, like, I don't even know what I've done with the 49 years, you know, so, like,
Right.
what have I done for 49? That just seems like a long time, but, yeah, I mean, I just I get excited because, you know, I wanna live to a long age, and I feel like just I mean, I try to do the best I can to keep my health where it needs to be, and so I'm just getting wiser, I'm learning more, I'm experiencing more in life, and I think that's super cool, and, you know, I wanna be at a point, like you said, a lot of people will make a lot of comments, oh, like, you know, this is what happens when you get older, or, you know, something happens. I'll give you an example. So today, actually, today I was outside of recess, and every now and then I'll race the kids for fun. You know, some kid will ask me to race or something like that, and I'm always make sure that I win. I mean, I don't want these
Of
kids to
course.
beat me, you know, type of thing. And I've even raced like the fastest kid in the class, and I always got to make sure I smoked them, and of course, they're these are like 9-year-olds. So I mean, I'm not bragging here. I'm just saying, like, I feel like I should always win, right? And so we were about to go play soccer, and I had to pick the teams for them, and just for fun, I made a comment to him. Then I was like, "Let's go!" And I just took off in a sprint. And of course, they're all trying to race me. And I smoke like the first percent, but there's one kid that's super fast, and I was like, "Oh, this kid's keeping up with me." And so I took it into second gear, and I'm finishing. I'm about to slow down. Right when I was about to put on the brakes, like I felt a little pull on my hamstring, and I'm like, "Oh, dang it!" And then I slowed up a little bit, and it wasn't so much where like one time I hurt my hamstring really bad, and it was like you just like fall down, like you can't even move. It's just like the worst pain. And it wasn't like this, just a little tweak, but enough to be like, all right, guys, I think I just pulled my hamstring, kind of joking around with them or whatever. And I was talking to someone later about it, actually, my teammate, and she said, "Oh, it's because you're 49 years old." And I was like, "No," I was like, "That here's what happened is I didn't warm up, right?
Yeah.
I haven't done any stretch, no mobility at all. I haven't put a good sprint in a while. I only do that every few weeks. And I put in a little bit different gear to make sure I took care of that one kid. And I haven't gotten second gear in a while. So it was a combination of stuff. And that's where I want to be, where it's like it's not, I'm not letting age be a crutch. There's other things. He did tell me, like, hey, I should probably be sprinting more often
Mhm.
because I want to be able to sprint at any kind of gear,
Mhm.
and feel good about it and not have to worry about that. So that was a good reminder. Like, hey, there's always something. I think a lot of times, sometimes people look at trainers and they're like, oh, like they do everything perfectly. There's like nutrition and wherever, and actually that's far from it. Like you could look at my day to day eating habits, and there's a lot of things you could fix. Workouts, there's a lot of things I can improve on. I can improve on almost every aspect of my health journey. So it was a good reminder of, hey, like I said, you probably need to sprint a little more often. You probably need to put that into the second gear. But I had fun doing it. And that's what I want. I want to be able to be at any age and be able to take on 9-year-olds or 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds and race them and beat them, type of thing. Maybe that is where I'll feel old, where I can't beat them. But that's the
Yeah.
goal, is to never be able to get to that point. But so I don't know. I don't know. That's just, and I haven't had this perspective forever. It's not like when I was younger, I was like, oh, I can't wait to get old. I think it's just the older I got, it probably, I don't know. I feel like in your 20s, you kind of feel like you're Superman, like, like you're like that great age, like nothing can ever happen to you. And then you start getting into 30s and 40s, and you start realizing, okay, I'm a little bit older than I was. So I have to adjust things a little bit. But that's where, there's that in the 20s, like almost everybody is in a great spot health wise. Like a lot of people are, at least when I was in the 20s, like everyone was in the gym, everyone was looking good. You go out I remember going to the pool one time in college, and like every guy is out there and they're all looking jacked. They're like, there's no separation there. But then you get into the 30s and your 40s, and all that separation is getting bigger and bigger. And so that's a proud moment. You feel good about yourself, that you can do all the things you still want. You feel really good about yourself and how you look and how you feel. And so I guess the older I get, the more I am excited about it.
Mhm. No, I freaking love that, and the more it stands out when you're at that point, and because that's what life is all about, is being able to do things without restriction or limitation, be able to, like, do the activities you want, go and travel, like, whatever it is, being able to bust that out, like, if you wanna go run a 5K, like, go do it, not that you would, but, like just be able to go and do those things. Um,
Well,
and real
like
important.
just like you said, like running a 5K. I mean, I'm not a big runner, I don't love that, but every now and then I see someone running, I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't mind getting out there every now and then. It would be kind of cool just to be able to train for a couple weeks and go run a race like that without feeling like I'm going to pass out or I'm going to hurt myself.
Yeah, exactly, it's just, like, you wanna train for life, that's what it is, that's what fitness is. And I guess the real important question is you beat this kid, right?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
no doubt. Like, I made sure, like, like I said, and it wasn't like, top gear. I just put it in
Yeah.
second gear. How to
Yeah.
make sure, and you can't just beat them. Like, there has to be no doubt.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, and you gotta make sure all the other kids are watching too, close by, so they know that, hey, Mr. Brown is old, but he's still beating people.
I freaking love it. So how's the hamstring then now? It's just the minor, or, like, what do you.
Yeah, it's just a minor little pull, like, I can walk around, no problem, whatever, but would I go out there and sprint and race somebody? No, type of thing. So, it's just more, it's kinda like a reminder. Like, I walk in, it just reminds me, like, "Hey, dude, you've got to sprint a little more," because I do like sprinting actually a lot. If I was gonna do any kind of running, like, I love sprinting. I just need to do that more. I mean, it's fun, I enjoy it. That's probably what I do, is race kids more often.
Yeah,
There's my
there
string
you
right
go.
there every day. All right, who's ready to race Mr. Brown? Let's do this.
So I feel like it's a win-win-win all around for everyone.
Yeah, and I feel like the older kids, they would ask to race me more because they are faster, and I think they felt like they had a better chance, so it was always fun. Sometimes you get some shocks on especially some, like, the really good athletes. You know, you beat them and they're like, "Wow, I'm actually shocked that you beat me," you know?
Yeah, yeah. Kinda humble them a little bit.
Yes, yes.
No, that's awesome, and I love what you said, it's like, that's just most people I feel like when they enter, like, "Oh, I need to avoid that," but, like, no, that just means you haven't been training it. It's just not what your body's used to, so it's like, "Oh, okay, we just need to build that adaptation back in for sprints."
Yep, yep. That's the plan going forward.
Well, my form of cardio for this weekend was going to a music festival. I got, like, 30,000 steps.
30,000. Alright, now is this walking around or is this because you're dancing?
Like, there's a
A
little bit of a
combination.
walk to, like, get in and out of the venue, but yeah, it's more of just dancing.
Alright,
Or
so tell us, like, what kinda dancer are you? Are you the dancer that people look at and they're like, "Wow, she's got some pretty good moves," or are you the one that people look at and like, "Alright, if she can get out here and do it, I can do it."
well, okay, so, I don't know how to answer that because, like, I go to, like, EDM festivals. This one in particular was more, like, rhythm dubstep. So, it's like, anyone dancing to that is just it's, like, some weird shit. So, but it's, like, it's normal. So, it's, like, you can do whatever you want and no one's gonna judge you. Like, if you do, like, whatever weird shit, people are like, "Hey," like, it's just a fun community.
I like techno, right?
No, it's different than that.
But is it similar in terms of, like, the dance style? Because I feel like I used to go to these techno clubs, and I used to get out there that's the only time I really danced is because, like you said, you can look like a complete idiot, and I would just do this random stuff, just to be silly, and everyone's doing the exact random stuff I'm doing, and I'm like, "Alright, I don't stand out at all."
Yeah, I mean, yeah, basically similar to that. It's like you can do whatever you want. It's just like just I'm just like flowing with the music, whatever I feel called to do. Having fun with it.
Well, I mean, that's the key. You had fun with it, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, it was a good time. I feel like much needed a little reset and just like getting out, being present. Like I love music. I'm very passionate about that. So that's like one of the things that will get me out, and staying out past my bedtime and everything.
Alright, well, let's get into talking about what a plateau is and, see if we can figure out, what we can do about that. So, but before we even get into the troubleshooting part of it, let's really define what an actual plateau is. So, every stall is not necessarily a plateau. I feel like sometimes if people don't lose, a pound the next week, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm a plateau." That's not necessarily a plateau, right? So a plateau is not the scale being flat for a couple days or a normal fluctuation after eating out, right? Water retention, a stressful week, all that is pretty normal. There's always going to be a little bit of fluctuation in your life, right? So usually a real true plateau is when you've been stuck for a few weeks despite being like super consistent in all areas of life and there's like no meaningful trend that's moving forward.
Yeah, and keep in mind with this, we aren't just looking at the scale too. A lot of people, they're like, "Yeah, I'm at a plateau. The scale hasn't moved." I'm like, "Okay, what else though?" Like with clients, we get to see all of the metrics of their health and their biofeedback and everything. So we can be like, "Nah, you're not. Like, look at all these things that are improved. Look at all this." So it's like you start here. So it's like we can lay that out, but a lot of people don't look at that. They just look at that one metric, and usually it's the scale. But we're also looking at body composition changes. Are you losing inches? Are you getting more muscles? Like, how does your body look? How are you feeling when you look in the mirror? Looking at measurements, progress photos, gym performance. That's a big one. Energy, recovery, how your clothes are fitting. Like, we want to look at all of these metrics, and that's all feedback as well. Because most of the time, people think that they're plateaued when fat loss is happening, and they're only using the one metric, which is a scale to judge it, which isn't giving you the full picture. So make sure you are zooming out, looking at that full picture before we go and troubleshoot.
Yeah, do you feel like the scale is kind of like that central point where a lot of people lean on that and that's where they go to and they say, "Oh, I'm in a plateau," is because of the scale?
Oh, yeah. I'd say, like, 99% of the time.
I always laugh a little bit. I have to give, clients a hard time when they're like, I think I'm in a plateau, man." And we're like, "Well, why do you think that?" Like, "I mean, the scale hasn't budged in like a week or 2 or something like that." And then they're like, "Are you stronger?" "Yeah, I've been hitting PRs." Like, "How's your energy?" "Through the roof." "Oh, how do you looking?" "Oh, man, I got a couple comments this week on how great I'm looking." Like all this stuff, like, "Oh, I had to go out and buy some new clothes because these weren't fitting." And like, "So you're in a plateau?" "Yeah, man, the scale hasn't like budged."
I know exactly who you're talking about too. We won't say any names.
Yeah, well, there's a lot. There's not one person. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people, and I get that because it's just for some reason society has put so much stock into that scale, but there are so many other metrics, like you said, to look back and like you said, feedback. I think is a great word to use that we can use to say, okay, you know what, that's not moving, but other things are moving.
Mhm. And even one thing you said too, like with that client example is like 1 or 2 weeks and scales them. It was like to me, 1 to 2 weeks is nothing. Like that's normal fluctuations too. So
Yeah.
it's like zoom out. We got to zoom out time wise, see the full picture as far as changes that are happening too.
Right. Okay. So let's say we really do feel like we're in some kind of plateau, right? Regardless of anything else, you're like, oh, you know what, guys, I really do think I'm in a plateau. So the first question we want to ask ourselves, and this is, you know, I don't know, I'm not going to comment. I'll let you comment in a second. But are you really in a caloric deficit? Right. I mean, it sounds obvious, but it's usually the first thing that we talk about.
Yeah, classic. A lot of people think they're in a deficit, but they aren't. Because bottom line, if you aren't losing weight, you are in a deficit. Hate to break it to you, that's just, that's just how it works. You can't escape the law of thermodynamics. A lot of people are estimating their portions. They're grabbing snacks here and there without tracking it, or just snacking a little bit more than they realize, or eating foods that they think are healthy in amounts that are too much or keep them still at maintenance, or drinking calories. It's like there's so many little things that can add up that puts you so easily out of a deficit, and it's so incredibly common. So a lot of times the issue isn't the broken metabolism, it's just the deficit isn't existing right now. And before you go and make big changes, literally just look at that and make an audit and get yourself in a deficit, and then the scale's going to move.
Well, and I think what a lot of times what happens is it's let's just say someone's just really consistent with their eating habits and they're doing really, but they're not tracking. So they don't know exactly what they're, but they're pretty close, right? So they're off by, 100 calories, a couple hundred calories a day. And so what ends up happening is they're almost at maintenance. And so they're not really gaining a lot of weight or anything, but they're not losing weight. And they're like, I think I'm doing everything right, but it's not going anywhere. Right. And so you're actually in a pretty good place if that's where you like it. And you're probably pretty close to what you think are the calories that you're kind of taking in. But if you're truly not tracking like every single gram, you don't know it. And most of the times, what happens is we underestimate it and we're off by just a little bit. And you add that up over time, then, like I said, you're in the maintenance or you gain a little bit of weight here or there.
I think we were talking about this one of the other weeks on one of the episodes, but or maybe it was, I forget where it was. Maybe it was on one of our meetings, but there like the difference between a few hundred calories, like, you won't even notice as far as hunger or anything else, but, like, it is so easy to overeat a few hundred calories just with a couple little sweet tweaks of things that you could do day to day without realizing it. So it's like little things like that. You think you're eating healthy, you think you're doing all the right things, and that's just getting you out of your deficit into maintenance or, like you said, maybe even a slight surplus.
Yeah, I mean, even if just like you're getting some ground beef and you get 50 more grams than you thought, which is not very a lot, but you do that every single meal, that adds up. And again, it may not even be that many, maybe 100, 200 calories each day, but over time that all adds up. All right, so question 2, and this is one that is really big, and this is one that we've talked about. If we can win the weekend, then that conquers a lot of our battles, right? So, question 2 is, are weekends undoing the week, right? And it is a really big one. So, a lot of people do a great job. They do create a deficit Monday through Friday. They rock it. Like you look at the meal plan, they feel really good, they feel confident. And then the weekend comes and they're like, whether they think it's a reward or they just get a little more laid back. Sometimes they don't even realize it, but because let's say they decide to go out to eat, they have a couple drinks, a few extra bite snacks, it's a little bit less structure, nothing like dramatic or anything like that. Nothing really stands out. But again, over time, it does matter. I mean, even just let's just say you eat just eating about 300 calories above maintenance on a Saturday and a Sunday are not gonna feel like much. You're like, "Dude, 600 calories," right? I mean, that's almost nothing, but that can lead to, like, a 7 to 10-pound weight gain every year and it's a slow rise. That's why a lot of people, and this I think this is more common than just a huge weight gain. A lot of people, from college on, every year they gain like 1 pound, right? 2 pounds here, there. And before they know it, they're 30, 40, and they've gained 10, 15, 20 pounds. So like, I don't even know how I gained all this weight. It's just over time. And so if you just do 10 pounds you're gonna 50 pounds in 5 years is not a whole lot of, of caloric overage. So I mean, That could be it. So if you feel stuck, sometimes it's just looking at your weekdays versus your weekends and saying, "Hey, am I just overdoing a little bit on the weekend? Does it look that much different?" So small, consistent surplus often are that hidden reason that the progress stalls.
Yeah, and that's not to say that you can't enjoy things, and I think a lot of people usually it's not the small surplus, usually it's, like, thousands and thousands of calories, which obviously then that accelerates that timeline a little bit more.
Right, right. Well, I was trying to give an example. Let's just say that they are super consistent, right? They
Yeah,
do really well, and they're not blowing it out of the water.
fair. But, yeah, I mean, my point is, like, we still want like, we always preach this with clients, like, you should be able to go enjoy weekend, enjoy day night, go to these events, like, all these things, like, that can exist. You can still go and enjoy those things and not blow it and undo all of your progress that you made during the week. It doesn't need to be perfect, but I think having some good solid anchors going into your weekend is gonna be super important, whether that is protein, activity and steps, hydration, just having some structure, so that way travel and social life doesn't derail you and, again, erase all the progress that you made. So it's more of just having that awareness and having a plan going into the week. And I think that's the biggest thing that people miss is like they have structure when they're at work, they have the meals prep for the week and everything. They have the routine, coming home, eating with the family, all that. And on the weekends, like there's no structure. It's just a free for all. So it's like have a little bit of structure, plan out your meals, keep the same meals that you have during the week for the weekend, or get with your wife and your family and be like, hey, well, like what's the plan for the weekend? Where are we going to eat? Like what do we need to do to structure that? It's just like have a little bit of plan going in, and that alone is gonna help keep things on track.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's the lack of structure. Like you said, Monday through Friday, a lot of people have that very, very consistent routine. Saturday, Sunday, not so much. And so maybe you're at home more often, or like we go out to eat, or you have more social events, and all those, we need structure. And when we don't have that structure, sometimes our decision making skills are not the best. And that's why I like calorie cycling, where you let's say you want to have more calories on the weekend, just cut back a little bit throughout the week. And it doesn't have to be a lot, but if we're taking our, 300 to 400 calorie example type of thing, you take off 100 calories each day during the week, and then you have, extra 500 calories to play with.
Hmm.
So you can still do that. Like we don't want it to be like, oh, well, you have to be perfect every single day of the rest of your life. Have some time where you're going to do that. Maybe it's not that Saturday, maybe it's a Tuesday, whatever it may be. And like you said, at least you have a plan for it.
Mhm. I think also, like, picking and choosing. It's like you can have those mornings where you just go and, like, have a meal that you want and, like, not stress about things, even if it is a lot over, that's totally fine. But it's like if you're doing that every single Saturday and Sunday or even Friday too, and then every single weekend, it's like that's gonna add so it's like pick and choose the moments where you wanna go and splurge a little bit and enjoy those moments.
Right, right.
So, another question to ask yourself if you feel like you're stuck in a plateau, are you sleeping enough? This one very overlooked because a lot of people don't correlate sleep with plateaus and fat loss and things like that. But poor sleep can increase hunger, increase your cravings, increase water retention, raise your stress hormones, lower recovery. And all of that's going to make fat loss a hell of a lot harder and stall it out a little bit. So oftentimes the issue isn't the food, it's more of the recovery and making sure you're getting the sleep in.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've said this before, right? You really can't like out discipline poor sleep type of thing. And you're right. A lot of people, they'll just overlook sleep totally. They're like, I'm doing everything I can, but I get 5 hours of sleep. Or I'm doing everything I can, but I go to bed at midnight type of thing. And yeah, we don't connect those two at all. And sleep is very much an important aspect of being healthy and feeling really good and allowing our body to work the way it's supposed to.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm constantly reminded even today, it's like I've been sleeping so good, and that's the reason I've been able to be locked in for, like, 13 hours of work and just being so present, focused, and intentional with everything. But also, again, like, it really does help with how your body's responding. I feel like especially cravings, because 'cause we've all had those days where you're so tired, you get, 5, 6 hours of sleep, and then you're like, "Man, I'm just craving sugar, like, I just wanna snack all day," and so it becomes a lot harder to just rely on willpower to not go and do that stuff, especially when you're craving things that are sweet or salty or fatty, things like that. So it just makes life easier in every single area.
Yeah, like you said, yeah, like it just when you don't have that sleep, all those choices are harder to make. All the good
Hmm.
choices are harder to make.
Yeah.
So question 4, like, are you getting enough daily movement? All right. I think people overestimate how much they actually move and they underestimate how much daily movement really matters, right? So we've all probably heard of what NEAT is, right? Your non-exercise activity, and it's one of the biggest drivers of energy expenditure. And often as people diet or they're trying to lean up, they subconsciously move less, right? So they have fewer steps, less fidgeting, more sitting. I think I saw something the other day. It was like if you just stood for instead of sitting all day. Let's say you stood for 6 hours, you can lose an extra like 150 calories, which again does not seem like a lot. However, it all adds up over time. If you're doing that 5 days a week, that's a lot of calories, right? So, and they just don't think it. They don't realize it, and that alone can create a plateau.
I didn't realize that, like, it was that much just from standing. That is pretty significant.
Yeah, and I think this was like it was like 5 or 6 hours. It wasn't like
Yeah.
but still, I mean, if that's how much you're sitting in your job and you have a standing desk instead, and of course, we've talked about having that walking pad. All right, which we haven't talked about in a while, but man, if you get on that walking pad, which obviously you're standing because you're walking, and do some work for a couple hours, you can get an extra few thousand steps in, which is huge. Do that every day for 5 days. Awesome.
I was debating using it for this podcast tonight, to be honest. I'm a little low on steps. I've been sitting all day on calls, so I was like, I might need to do
Oh,
it.
we've joked about it before. We should do a podcast like both of us are walking on the walking pad.
Yep. It'll happen one of these days for sure.
Yes, yes, we will.
But yeah, a lot of people go to the gym even if you go to the gym, that's 1 hour, 45 minutes out of your day, and then you're sedentary the other 23, like, you're still completely sedentary. So, what you do the rest of the day still matters. And even too, what you are doing in the gym matters. A lot of people aren't pushing themselves hard enough, so it's like, how do you expect your body to adapt if you aren't training to a point where your body's forced to? So it's like you really actually need to push yourself harder, like get closer to failure. I actually I made a controversial video that I'm gonna post next week. I'm like, more people need to overtrain. Like you need to find the limit. Like you need to go like train fucking hard. Find the limit and then pull back because no one knows where that limit is. They think they're training hard when in reality they're like 10 reps away from failure. So it's like you need to find that limit to be able to like go and know what actually training hard is.
Well, my favorite comment is always when someone at the gym is like, "Oh, that's my weight." They'll do whatever it may be, like, maybe they're doing some bicep curls, they're like, "Oh, that's my weight that I do every time." Every single time? I've been doing this for 4 years. The exact same weight? Yeah, that's my weight. And I'm always like, "Hey, that's awesome, I'm glad you're coming in," but man, it's your body's totally adapted to that. It's not gonna change at all, so that's
That's
awesome.
hilarious. Yeah, not your weight anymore. We're bumping that up.
Got your weight. Let's do this. All right. So question 5, and again, this is similar to sleep. I don't think really people pay attention or they don't connect the way stress can affect your health journey. So is stress chronically elevated, right? And this one matters a lot, way more than people I think understand. So if stress is chronically high, your body often feels less safe letting go, right? And so it's going to hold on to everything. It could hold on to fat. It could hold on to all other kind of things, but recovery suffers, sleep suffers, hunger regulation suffers. And a lot of people respond to stress by pushing harder, like they might do more cardio, or they might eat less food, and that just makes it worse. That just puts your body more into hey, I've got to fight and save everything I can possibly do. And guess what's the first thing they want to get rid of because it's so expensive? Muscle, right? That's the last thing we want our body to be trying to get rid of. So sometimes that move isn't more deficit; it's just less pressure.
I hope that we've been driving this into people's heads a little bit more. I feel like, at least I'm really trying to drive it in, because it is one of those things that people don't think about when it comes to fat loss. Kind of same with sleep. I see stress and sleep kind of go hand in hand with that, and they feed off each other, obviously. But yeah, like you can be doing all of the right things, and if you're at a plateau, it's because your body's chronically stressed. And like as soon as you release that stress, like things will start. We've seen it so many times with clients. Like I've talked about, I'm going through it myself. It's like I'm probably the most dialed person we know, and like I've been chronically stressed, so, like, my body's just shutting down, and, like, you cannot avoid it. Like, you need to address stress as a core foundation like you're doing with nutrition and training and everything. And one thing I'd say too is, like, it doesn't even matter if you don't feel stressed. A lot of times people are like, "Oh, like, I'm like, fine. This is just, like, my normal stress level." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, but been chronically stressed for so long that this is just like your normal baseline, and your baseline is like way too high, and we need to actually reduce it. So it's like same thing in sleep. People are like, oh, like I'm fine with 5, 6 hours sleep. No, you aren't. I'm sorry, you aren't. So we got to bring that baseline back to like actually true normal levels.
I feel like a lot of people have, I guess you could say, have done really well with learning how to live with the stress that they've had and be able to function pretty well. And like you said, you might ask them like, Where are you when you're stressed all this week?" They're like, "Oh, it's like a 2 or 3 or something like that." But in reality, it's probably more like an 8, 9. They've just learned how to deal with it, which isn't always necessarily the best thing in the world. So yeah, it does affect. So sometimes people do a lot of good things and they do hit that plateau and they're like, "I'm doing everything else right," and you're like, "Hey, you know what? Let's look at your stress levels and let's really dive deep into that and see if." And then when that changes, sometimes almost miraculous, like you given that example at one client you had, it's like almost overnight type of thing where they just start feeling better and they just start losing weight and reaching their goals.
Hmm. Yeah. So another one that isn't talked about a lot either is if you're feeling stuck, is your body actually primed to lose weight right now? Because oftentimes, like we've been saying, the problem isn't that we need to push more, but we need to rebuild the foundation. We need the right support first, especially if you've been chronic dieting for a long time. If you've been under eating, you've been in a deficit for so long. If you are high stress and been dealing with that for a while, or you've just been one of those people that's been stuck at this plateau and spinning your wheels for years, you need to rebuild first. We need to focus on recovery, metabolic health, getting your body to respond again. And this is where most people miss it. They treat every plateau like it's a discipline problem we need to prime it first. That's why we've like built out the Unbreakable program the way we had. The first phase is rebuilding. We need to fix the foundation first. We actually just had a client who joined who's just had he's been grinding. Like he has no problem putting in the work. He's been doing it for years and he literally said the same thing we were talking about earlier. Is like he's putting in all this work and nothing's coming from it. He's like, "Why the hell am I doing this if all this effort is going for nothing?" It's like I want to see the changes. I've been busting my ass. I've been doing the right things, even tracking everything and training all that. Uh, and through our discovery call, we realized like he has gut issues at the core of this, and his body isn't digesting, absorbing things the way that we need. And so, of course, he's not gonna be able to see the change he wants in his physique. And so that's kind of part of addressing the foundation. A lot of it too is metabolic health. Like I said, if you've been dieting and yo-yoing for so long, it's like you're gonna get to a point where, yeah, you may like have cut your calories so much and your body has adapted. So you aren't a deficit anymore because it's adapted to that place, but you can't go any lower because it's just like you're in survival mode. And so that's when we need to go rebuild your metabolic health to put you in the position to be able to lose weight sustainably. So this is something that a lot of people neglect, especially when they've been in that cycle for so long. They skip that first phase. And that's why this is our groundbreaker phase. That is why every single person needs to go through this before they start. And that is what makes sure that this is the last time that they ever have to lose weight.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because now, as a result of it, a lot of times they do end up losing weight right away, right? The first few weeks, first few months, but that's not our focus. Like you said, we want to build that foundation and build those anchor habits so that we get to the point. Then it just starts becoming like, all right, now we can really focus because your body is set up. I mean, use my like hamstring as an example. It was, I mean, it can definitely put it into second gear and further on, right? If it needs to, but I wasn't primed for it. I didn't jog out there before or anything like that. I didn't stretch or anything. I just went from nothing to just go all out and look what happened, type of thing. So if I would have even just jogged a couple times, I think it would have been no problem at all. So again, you got to prime your body first before you do anything else. It's got to be ready for it.
Mhm. Yeah, we always hear the analogy, like, you can't build a house on a shaky foundation or, like, on dirt or whatever. It's like you need to have the solid foundation built, and same thing when it comes to your health, when it comes to weight loss, and if you don't do that, that's why you may see some progress, and then you slip back into old ways or you gain the weight back. It's like, need to have that foundation set. That's what makes it easy, that's what makes it sustainable, and allows you to keep the weight off.
Right. So I think all of this really comes down to like a mindset shift, right? A plateau is not like just a big failure. Sometimes it's just your body's feedback, right? It's your body saying, "Hey, you know what? Something needs adjusting. We're not quite where we need to be. We're not in optimal space to lose weight or gain muscle, whatever we're trying to do, right?" And it's most time it's not work harder. It's, "Hey, I need to work smarter."
Yeah, and I'd also say too, a lot of times that's when people are like, "All right, I need to jump ship. I need to try the next diet." Like, no, like usually you don't need to make significant changes. It's just looking at like all these bullet points that we went through. It's like assess each one. Like, which one do I need to make a shift on? Do I need to get into a deficit? Is there a deeper core issue that I need to address before I go and try to lose weight? Am I chronically stressed? Am I training hard enough? Like all these things. Just make those small tweaks, and then you're going to start seeing that progress again. You don't need to go and completely overhaul things. That's also where you're never going to see progress because you're jumping from one thing to another.
Yeah, it's that patience. I was thinking about, have you ever been in traffic and let's say you have like 4 or 5 lanes, right? And like you're in left-hand lane and it's probably gonna go fast, right? But then like the middle lane goes and you see, and maybe you've been that, I've been that person, but you see that one person that switches lanes really quick and then all of a sudden they switch back and then you just start watching and then they're like third lane back to second lane and then you pass them up and you can tell they're getting mad, so they're keep going back and forth.
100%.
They were just stuck in that same, stayed in that same lane, they would have been so far ahead of themselves right now.
That's so accurate. Yeah, that's what most people do though. Like it sounds silly like when you're looking at it like that, but it's like that's what we do. Like you things slow down, you hit that wall, even if you haven't actually hit a plateau and you're just like, oh, I haven't seen the scale move in 2 days. You're like, oh, I need to scrap it. I need to go try something different.
Yeah, I know, but at the same time, I totally get it. I mean, it is very difficult, you know, when you're working really hard and you wanna see the results from it, so I get it. We just wanna be like I said, we just wanna have a better mindset and be able to reframe that and look at all the options and what's really going on and listen to that feedback.
Yeah. And I think one last point too that's important to mention is like all of this, before you implement anything, it's like you need to have the data. Before you go and cut calories, like you won't know what's missing. You won't know what's actually causing this plateau if it really is a plateau if you don't have the data. That's why with clients, we track all of their data. We have all of their biofeedback each week. And we're looking not just at their training stats, the numbers that they're using as far as reps and sets and weight, making sure that they are progressing. They don't have their go to weight that they're using every week. We look at all that. We look at the food that they're eating every single day, the macros, the portions, the types of foods that they're eating. We're looking at their body composition through photos. If they're using like body fat scales, things like that, we're looking at the number on the scale too as a unit of measurement. And then we're also, like I said, we're looking at biofeedback, their energy, their strength, their stress levels, their sleep. We're looking at all of these different things and how they all connect together because it isn't just one thing or the other. Everything plays together. Everything is so connected. And that's how people will come to us stuck for months or years. And then immediately they start the program and within a few weeks, they're at a new low and it just continues to trend down. That's because again, we start with the foundation and we're looking at all these things to make sure that they're working together and approaching it the right way. So before you go and try to reduce food again or just jump into another diet, ask yourself like, have you actually audited your intake? Are you tracking things consistently, accurately? Are you weighing it out? Are you going off the rails every weekend? How's your sleep? How's your movement? How's your stress? And is your body actually in a good place to diet harder? Like realistically, how long have you been doing this? Is it primed and ready to go? Run through those first, have the accurate data to back it up, and then you can adjust from there.
Yeah, so, I mean, like we said, most plateaus aren't really mysterious, they're physiology. Most people don't need a more aggressive fat loss phase, they just need a better setup. So fix the setup before you push harder, and that's probably gonna change everything.
Yep. And if you are in a plateau right now, that's also why we put together our guide. It's called 5 Steps to Your Next 5 Pounds Down. So it walks you through how we troubleshoot plateaus, how to create momentum without any of the extremes. So I'll link that in the show notes. And if this episode was helpful, please share it with someone who is spinning their wheels right now, is on their weight loss journey, on their health journey. And we will catch you guys in the next one.